Hello and welcome to MLOps Minutes. In this episode, the idea is to show you the workflow associated with annotation. We're going to do most of what we do today manually, and tomorrow, later, in other episodes, we'll automate most of our actions. Here we go. We're going to use an open source application called EcoTag. If you scroll down the README, you'll find a link to an online demo application. And if you go down again, you'll come across the Get Started section, which you should also have in your applications, allowing anyone to run your project in less than 3 lines of code. So what we're going to do is copy these 3 lines of code and paste them here in a terminal. I'll explain them in parallel. The first line is for cloning the project. The second line, cd ecotag, is to go to the directory you've just cloned, and then you need to have Docker running on your machine, and you do a Docker compose up to launch the project infrastructure. Here, it will launch the project at this address, localhost 5010. Docker compose will emulate all the infrastructure associated with this project. We'll find a web application, an API, a database, and file storage. I'm going to go on localhost 5010 and it's going to ask me to authenticate. This is normal because in a company there will be security rules for your production applications. For the video, the username is Bob and the password is Bob. You too can perform all these actions at home to launch the application in less than 5 minutes. We arrive on a screen here with 3 buttons. And here's what you need to know. Just like in your other companies, you'll probably have security rules. Not everyone will always be able to see all the data. Here I have an administrator profile which gives me access to all the application's functions, but there are 3 profiles. An annotator to access the tab for annotating projects. A data scientist to annotate projects and create datasets. And an administrator to manage teams, which will allow you to see which team has the right to view which data. Let's start by creating a team. I'm going to create a team of cats, dogs, and others. Cats, dogs, and others. I created, and to this team, I'm going to add Bob. Then I'll come back and create a dataset. I click on New Dataset. I'll create cats, dogs, and others. I'll associate this with the cats, dogs, and more team. I'll upload images for the demo. In terms of data security, it's a public thing. That's it, my dataset is added. It's added, but I created it, but I don't have an image associated with it. My dataset is not locked. I can go to it, and I'll be able to upload some cats. Here, I'm only going to take about 10 images. What you have to understand is that when you start an annotation project, you mustn't upload thousands of images all at once. Start small with small volumes. As you refine your annotation rules, you'll be able to create larger and larger data sets. And of course, refine the annotation rules as you go along. Right now, I'm sending a dozen images, 16, and I lock my data set. Now that my data set is locked, I can no longer modify it. However, I can use it in an annotation project. I'll create a new project so as not to change the name of the cat, dog, or other, which I'll associate with the cat, dog, and other dataset. And I will, for my case of cat, dog, and other, create a classification project. If there were several of us, we could say that we annotate each image twice to make sure we get a better quality annotation. But right now I'm on my own for the video. I'm only going to put 1 annotation per image. You have to use labels. I'm going to put a cat label, a dog label, and another label. Here we go. I'm going to change the color because we're blue for other. Next, I'm going to associate the cat, dog, and other team. We can select teams because potentially there could be different teams of annotators for the annotation. For example, teams that create datasets. I can now return to the list of projects. And there, in fact, on the project list, I have a project in progress where for the moment I have 0 annotations. I'll zoom in on it where I can see a summary of the annotation. Then I can start annotating my data. Here, I think I've only put cats, so it's going to be pretty straightforward. We'll be able to change the configurations. To annotate, you need to know that the application of the annotation is extremely important to go as fast as possible. There are even shortcuts here for annotating. In other words, I can click. There you go, cat, cat, cat. They're all beautiful cats, but I can also use shortcuts by pressing button 1, 2, 3. Here I press shift and do 1. That way I can annotate pretty quickly. Here I'm annotating my little data set. I think I've only got cats, beautiful cats. And now that's it, I've finished annotating. So Bob did a good job and I'm done annotating. What's happening is that I can now retrieve my results. I'll click on export. This allows me to retrieve all my annotations in JSON format. Now I know that all my images have been annotated with the cat label, which isn't very original, and that I have 16 annotations. I didn't have any difficulty with the annotation rule, but if I had, I could have worked out the annotation rules with my colleagues. Now I can come back and I'm happy. My annotation project is finished. I could even close it and delete it if I wanted so that my project disappears from the application. Well, I think that's about it for this video. We did it all by hand, but it's important to know that there's an API behind it, of course. The idea is that many of these actions can be automated. Thank you and see you soon for more videos.